Welcome to our review on using light. First thing we need to understand then is that light has actually been used as a form of communication for many years. So we could go back to smoke signals being sent, obviously using light, because without light we couldn't see the smoke signals. You can go back to when they used to flash, obviously beacons and so forth. So light's actually been around for a very long time as a form of communication. And what we're actually looking at there is basically an early form of a digital signal. And the way that we actually used this to transfer information from one place to another very quickly was through using this process of Morse code. So Morse code is just a series of flashes that represent different letters and numbers. And that then means that you're obviously sending little flashes from one side, and someone quite some distance away is able to watch and then translate that little series of flashes into whatever message you're trying to send. One of the uses of light we have these days is in lasers. Now, lasers are slightly different to things like a torch because they produce a narrow beam of light that doesn't spread out much as it travels, and that they're also made up of one colour of light. So that's why we tend to have either a red laser, a blue laser, a green laser. It's because they're only made of that one colour of light. So what we find is that we've got a whole variety of different uses of laser these days. So we can use them in surgical and dental treatments, we can use them to guide weapons, we can use them to play information from CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, and also for cutting materials as well. So if you've got some thick piece of metal that needs cutting, we can use a laser to do that. So if we think about the properties of lasers in more detail then, the waves that are emitted from a laser have the same frequency and they're what's known as in sync with each other. So this is what we call being in phase. So we can actually describe our laser as being a source of coherent monochromatic light. They're coherent because all of those waves are the same frequency and in sync with each other, and they're monochromatic because they're single coloured. So we've also got this other property where the lasers have what's called a low divergence. Anytime we're talking about lasers having a low divergence, what we mean is that they don't spread out much. So that means that we can actually shine a laser over a long distance without there being much spreading out of the beam. If we consider one of our uses of lasers in a little bit more detail now, we're going to think about CDs and DVDs and how they actually work. So if you actually look at the surface of a CD or a DVD under a microscope, then what you can actually find are that there are a series of pits on the surface there. So this is how we're actually going to store the information, is as a series of pits on the surface of that disc. So when we put the disc into our player, it spins round, and then a laser is shone onto the surface. Now where it's obviously the nice flat shiny surface, the laser then reflects back, but whenever that light enters a pit, we get no reflection. So what we actually generate from the surface of our disc spinning around are a series of pulses. Now that's a digital code because it's either on or off, and it's going to be converted into the sounds or images by the computer chips in the player. So quite simply, we're generating a digital code based on that laser shining onto the surface. Anytime it goes into a pit, no reflection occurs, gives us those pulses, which are then converted into sound or images on our screen.